Alright guys, TJHaLy here again today, and as we discussed yesterday, CWL Miami is over, E United walked away with the victory, and today I want to talk about a couple of the teams, especially OpTic Gaming, that did not do so well at that event, and what exactly they should change up for the Call of Duty World Championship, which is next month, I believe the 16th to the 18th of August, if I'm not getting that wrong. So, yeah, should be a fantastic event. Of course, right now it seems like a lot of teams could win it, because of course, this event we were thinking maybe 100 Thieves, maybe OpTic, maybe, you know, LG were going to be up there. E United came out, obviously a very good team in their own right. They ended up winning it. Gen.G are clearly very competitive. FaZe clan are obviously looking very good as well. Reciprocity right up there on their day. They could potentially do something. And then, of course, you've got a team like Splice as well, which is packed with talent, which, you know, hasn't really shown what they can do together. But it's certainly possible that they can, you know, take the top teams on. So very exciting couple of months ahead of us. Or really month, and I wanted to talk through really today what exactly these teams that struggled at Miami should do in the lead up to champs, because it's not necessarily the end of the world if you lose this event, because okay, it's not the big one, there was a lot of money on the line, but it's not the World Championship. No one's really going to remember stage, you know, the finals, Miami, the playoffs, whatever, if you end up winning the World Championship. So that's what's going to be on a lot of these pros' minds right now. And let's go into that in a little bit more detail, and I'm sure you guys will leave your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Like if you enjoy, subscribe if you are new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. And to start with here, just wanted to talk about Evil Geniuses very briefly. With the conclusion of the Black Ops 4 cycle approaching, EG would like to address our future in regards to Call of Duty. We've enjoyed competing in CoD under the EG name for years, and unfortunately we won't be bringing the EG name to the forthcoming Pro League season, or competing under the banner of any of the city-based franchises. So what they say is, our main focus is very literal. We want to keep developing a strong Evil Geniuses brand that is capable of supporting all of our projects, which kind of implies that, yeah, EG have got a fair bit of money behind them. They probably don't see this investment as worthwhile into the CDL, but they're also maybe thinking that, well, our brand is going to be a different one, because it's going to be whatever city they get. Say they get Seattle or something, they'll have to be the Seattle something or other rather than Evil Geniuses. So I think when they say like they're trying to build a strong brand, they're probably thinking it's probably not best to branch out and have other brands under the Evil Geniuses heading, and it might not be worth it anyway, as I talked about in the CDL or the Call of Duty esports more generally bubble video I did a few days ago now. So I thought I'd bring that to your guys' attention. If you're EG fans, you won't be seeing that name in the league next season, maybe never again, which is pretty sad really, because it's a legendary Call of Duty name, of course, and they won the World Championship just last year, and you never know, they might do it again. They've got Jacob on their team, and Apathy, let's not forget. So okay, here we go then. So obviously OpTic Gaming went out of the tournament on the Saturday after losing 3-0 to LG and then to 100 Thieves, and yeah, I mean, Karma tweets the following. I just thought I'd have a look at this in just to give you guys some context of what happened. And Maven says the following yesterday, which I thought was quite very interesting, because OpTic once again did a boot camp before this event at the Hex quarters, and when they've done boot camps in the past, earlier this year, with the exception of Vegas, I think, it has never gone well. And interestingly, the three teams at this boot camp were E United, Gen.G and FaZe Clan, who ended up being the top three teams at this event. So pretty remarkable, and a lot of those players, including, you know, Zuma, Scraps, were saying that OpTic looked very, very good at the boot camp. So a lot of people are saying that, you know, OpTic just had a terrible day on Saturday, they didn't win a single map, but that's not necessarily representative of their true level. And I think that's probably a slightly naive way to look at things, because yes, they might have been great in practice, but if they can't do it when it matters, you can't even win a map against LG and 100 Thieves. Yes, they're decent teams, but they didn't really place particularly well, let's put it that way. So yes, like I would say that obviously OpTic need to do a lot of improving. They need to go away and look at these things in a lot of detail, because as we know, they've made a lot of role changes in advance of this tournament, bringing Crimsix onto this Maddox, Karma onto the ICR, not the formula for success they had way back at Vegas, let's put it that way, switching a lot of things up. And I think a lot of that is down to the team just not believing that they cannot be not the best team, if you see what I mean. Like these players, maybe with the exception of Dashy and TJ, but especially Karma, Crim and Scump, I feel these are players that have been the best, the top of their game for years upon years upon years. So the fact that they may be getting beaten out of not being the most skilled team, I think is is a difficult pill for them to swallow. Of course, the team has an unbelievable amount of talent. Maybe in terms of raw skill, you can still consider them the number one. But in my opinion, that's not the case anymore. I think other teams beat OpTic out in terms of their raw talent. And I feel like to some degree, the OpTic guys are thinking, well, surely that can't be the case. Surely the only reason why we're not having success is because of issues with our roles or, X, Y, Z other reasons. And maybe that's an excuse they've made in their mind. Whether you guys think this is legitimate or not, leave a comment section down below. But that's kind of the way I'm looking at this a little bit. I feel like they've made up their mind that it can't be the fault of, us as players or as the team. We're doing everything right. It must be some role issue. Once we get that sorted, it'll be fine. As we saw at Miami, that's not how it was. So Crimsix obviously didn't have a good weekend either. We'll have a look at the stats in a second here. Just have a look at their series. Obviously, the stats don't mean that much in the context that they didn't win a single map. You're not expecting the stats to be good. But I thought we'd have a look at it anyway because it kind of leads into my discussion that I want to have really on how we've seen that the SMGs are much more important nowadays than they have been in the past. Let's put it that way. And getting the most action out of them seems to be pretty crucial. But anyway, we'll get into that. So yeah, Crimsix tweets the following. And here we go. So these are their matches. This is the fashion in which they lost. Comfortable to Luminosity Gaming. As I said here on the Saturdays or the Sunday mornings video, their loss here was unbelievable. They went up OpTic like 80 something to basically 4 for Luminosity, and then they got beaten 246 to like 15. Completely smoked off the map. It was ridiculous to watch, and something that is, there really are no excuses for that. Then in the search they got destroyed. The control, it was close at times, but you can see these stat lines just not pretty at all. Of course, this is AKD. We'll have a look at KD specifically in just a second here. And this is a 100 Thieves matchup. Again, not particularly competitive, especially considering 100 Thieves and Luminosity went out. I think they've both finished, I believe, top 6 in this tournament. So hardly impressive to get 3-0'd by both those squads. So these are some of the statistics. Obviously you don't take this a little bit of a grain of salt. They lost every single map they played. You're not expecting it to be great. These are the considered the ratings for the players. So based on things like impact and other things, which obviously is not pretty, but I've organized this purely by KD. So you can see Crim at a 0.66, TJ at a 0.68, Karma at a 0.68, Scump up here at a 0.85, and then we have Dashy still, putting above a 1. But, I mean, look, these figures are frankly unacceptable, and it's the slaying that just wasn't there for OpTic this tournament, and it's very key to know. When we look at the teams that won this tournament, the teams that were being very, very competitive, the Uniteds, the Gen.Gs, the FaZes, the Reciprocities, they have either a very, very good all-round team, or they have really, really great SMGs. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing the trend towards here. Of course, Simp and Abizi currently the reigning SMG duo. And, Reciprocity have Dylan, they have Zed when he decides to turn up, and Alex as well on the SMGs are filthy at times. Then FaZe Clan, Zuma and Asim, not necessarily the best in terms of raw skill, but they play very intelligently. Their FaZe team is a little bit different because they play a little bit more around their assault rifles, setting up Cellium, setting up scraps. So their team's slightly different to some of the other ones we've talked about. And that's, to me, why, just to segue a little bit into 100 Thieves here, I think 100 Thieves will have some real issues bouncing back from this performance for champs. Because as I said when I first talked about the possibility of this SMG buff, Priestahh, fantastic player, but they have Enable as their second SMG, and he really had a horrible weekend. So if you don't have those going off, you're relying super heavy on your ARs, and Kenny isn't an SMG in this game, and maybe he'll have to be to give them a chance of winning the championship, to be honest, because in my opinion, the game is so SMG focused now since this latest update. We're seeing 3 of them on a lot of maps. You have to be getting action out of your SMGs. Now this tournament, Scump honestly was pretty damn good overall. I thought he was impressive, but at the cost of Karma and Crimsix having horrible stats, including TJ, it's just not one we can talk about. And like, if the SMGs are gonna have bad stats, maybe like something like a FaZe Clan, they still did well, but their SMGs didn't have the best stats. You need your ARs to have ridiculous stats, and Crimsix is the Maddox now, is the current roles, and in my opinion, that's just not gonna work. Crimsix is not a Maddox type player. His movement is not quick enough. It's not crisp enough. He looks to me much more like an assault rifle, an ICR, would fit his style way better than a Maddox does. And I think it's probably the opposite for Karma. I think Karma could probably do it with both, obviously, both fantastic players. But look, in my opinion, they have to switch these roles back. I think Crimsix on the ICR is the only role that he's going to be that competitive in. We've seen when he tries to take these faster roles, like on OpTic in stage 2 last year when they, of course, come top 24 champs, wasn't pretty. And yeah, it's 6 maps, so it's difficult to say what the stats would have been if they'd have played 12 maps or something like that, but that's just some early observations here. And in terms of whether they change back their roles and everything will be fixed, I don't think it'll be that simple, but I think that the role changes, as I've expressed, I don't think they were for a very justifiable reason, and as a result, I think that it's probably worth trying to change back here, even though you have had a whole boot camp practicing with it, and apparently it's gone quite well, so it's somewhat tough to say. Now, I wanted to bring this up, because this was stage 2 playoffs last year, and OpTic Gaming there lost a FaZe in the first round, who ended up being eliminated relatively early, and then Nieuwland, who also were eliminated quite early. So we have a very, very similar turn of events here, with OpTic last year coming top 8, and OpTic this year also coming top 8 in the playoffs event. Now, I heard a lot of people in the community last year saying, well, you know, it was just playoffs. Some people even saying like they're saving strats for champs and stuff. I heard this last year. This year, I think the people saying that were just joking, and maybe they were last year as well. But what I would say is if you're in the camp of, well, OpTic will bounce back, it's fate for these guys to lose now, they'll bounce back for champs, I would think again, because we know what happened last year in World War II. They lost this tournament, came top 8. Champs didn't even make it out of pools, came top 24. So this year, I would also, if I was OpTic Gaming, I'd be very concerned that a similar thing is going to happen again. Right now, there are so many teams that are very, very good and miles ahead of OpTic, to be honest, especially on the performance this weekend. Honestly, it was just not good to watch at all, especially the Search and Destroy. It's always kind of been their downfall, but there was no trading, nothing of the like, nothing of Dashy and TJ completely dominating games like it was at Vegas. Seems like teams are much more prepared nowadays, but to some degree, it seems like OpTic is just regressed significantly. Their play style is just not competitive right now with the other teams, at least on what we saw in evidence this weekend. And really, you're only as good as your last performance, aren't you? So this is the bracket, of course, for this weekend. And OpTic Gaming in a similar fashion here lose to 100 Thieves, and then they lost to LG in the very first round. This time we had 10 teams, so it was a little bit different. And, these were the final placings. So, yeah, once again, OpTic coming top 8. Be really interested to hear your guys' thoughts on what exactly they should do. And maybe you can throw some other teams into the mix as well, like the likes of 100 Thieves. I'll probably go into them on more detail in the coming days. But, of course, OpTic and 100 Thieves were considered not necessarily lock-ins for top 4, but definitely heavy, not necessarily heavy favourites, but 100 Thieves, I would say, were favourites. United were in and around there, same with Gen.G. And OpTic Gaming were probably up there in like the top 4 favourites as well. And of course, they did top their division. So the fact that they came top 8 here, the fact that 100 Thieves came top 6 should be a massive wake-up call to both teams. And what exactly OpTic Gaming do about this to try and get their SMGs performing at the level required to take down an EU or a Gen.G right now. And trying to keep up the level of performance from your assault rifles is a difficult challenge to master, I think. But of course, they do have a few weeks now in preparation for champs. They can go and look at some VODs at some of the best teams and see where it takes them, but whether they'll do that, I don't know. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like if you guys enjoyed, subscribe if you're new as always. Thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I'll see you next time.